On this episode of Game Shack, I talk about Arcade1up's announcement at CES 2021. The good, the bad, the meh. Coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome back onto the show. I'm your host, JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thanks for stopping right on into the Game Shack. Okay, it is the Consumer Electronics Show, Day 1, 2021. And as promised and predicted, Arcade1up has announced a series of new cabinets, I think 7 cabinets overall. They're reissuing some older games that they've already put out in cabinets called the Legacy series, and all brand new cabinets. Let me start with the Legacy series first. Now, all of the cabinets I'm going to mention in the Legacy series have 12 games in each cabinet, except for the first one, which is Pong. But this is a 4-player kind of bar top style game with the spinny controllers. It includes Pong, I think Super Pong, Breakout. It includes Tempest, interestingly enough, which is a really cool idea. I think there's 8 games total on it. It does not have Warlords, and that's a big disappointment because I think Warlords would be perfect for a little table like this. And really, if Warlords was on there, I think that'd be an almost must buy. All right, so the other 3 cabs in the Legacy series all have 12 games in them, which is it's a positive step that they are putting some more games in these cabs. I would have liked to have seen, well, really honestly, I would have liked to have seen 20 and 60 in one, but that's just not a leap that Arcade1up is quite ready to make yet. All 3 of these cabs are stand-up cabs, and all 3 of them have different designs from each other and from the standard Arcade1up design. Of the 3, I think the Tempest machine it looks the best. I think that's just an incredible looking machine. And because of the nature of Tempest and Asteroids using the spinny controller, it's the one that I'm most interested in picking up myself, because I can see an interest in both the design of the cabinet, frankly the art of it, the aesthetics of the cabinet, and the fact that I'm not going to have a cabinet that has that kind of control in it. So I can kind of I can justify in my own mind picking up that cab because of the way it looks and the cool controller. All right, the next cabinet is Pac-Man. It's another Pac-Man cabinet. This is another 12-in-1, and this one looks pretty cool because it has a lot of the Pac-Man games. It also has Dig Dug, Galaga, Galaxian, Mappy, some other kind of weird game I never heard of. Oh, Rompers. It's got a game called Rompers on it. I don't know what Rompers is. Most disappointingly of all, it does not have Miss Pac-Man. So it's another Pac-Man issue that does not have Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man on the same cab. And I think that's disappointing. I could see, again, if they had a Pac-Man style cabinet and then a Miss Pac-Man style cabinet, and then it kind of lets you pick which cabinet you want, but still had both games on there. They don't do that. And what's interesting is that they did do that for a game I'm going to talk about in a second, which is Space Ace and Dragon's Lair. So it's not unprecedented for this company to issue out 2 separate cabinet designs, but have the exact same games in it. Okay, the other big reissue is Street Fighter. The original Street Fighter cabinets, in my opinion, were just hideously ugly. Just the control deck was terrible, the sides were awful. It was Street Fighter is one of my most favorite games, but man, that cabinet was just terrible. I mean, I know they were taking design elements from the original game, but it just looked terrible. Well, that's all gone now. Now they have a cabinet that much more closely resembles the coolest looking arcade cabinets for Street Fighter. Really looks good. The logo is kind of small on the side, but again, that apparently is more closely related to the actual cab. So most excitingly for me, it has Darkstalkers on it, which is a game I love. A lot of people, there's kind of like a sub niche of Street Fighter fanatics that love Darkstalkers even more than they like Street Fighter. So that is pretty cool news. I don't know what else is on it. Also, interesting enough, it has Ghosts and Goblins, 1944, in a game called Strider, which I'm not familiar with, but I know that there's some people really excited about that. So again, 12-in-1, it's got Street Fighter Turbo, I think Street Fighter Championship, so 3 or 4 different flavors of Street Fighter and Darkstalker. That's really cool. Again, if you did not own any of these cabinets, if you don't own a Retrocade or something that has a bunch of these games, well, this is a cool way to get into, again, if you get the Pac-Man game, you get this, and you get the Tempest game, wow, you've got, 36 games, 3 beautiful looking cabinets. I mean, it'd be a way for, for not, probably around $1,200 to have an instant arcade that has a bunch of games that everyone recognizes, and would be really cool. So the real big news, I think, for a lot of people is going to be the fact that Arcade1up has announced Killer Instinct as one of their all-new cabinets. This is one that apparently is incredibly hard to emulate on RetroPie, at least up to 3. I don't know if anybody's tried it on 4. So it's a harder game to emulate with lower powered PCs and RetroPies, which means that it's one that you're not too likely to see in like a MAME collection or something like that if you're doing your own homebrew kind of mod on an Arcade1 machine or something like that. So it's got a huge interest in it just because, hey, it has the game and you're gonna be able to play this game now. The other, of course, interest in that, it looks like the original arcade cabinet. What other games are on it? It has Killer Instinct 1 and 2. It has Battletoads, the original arcade version, and it has Double Dragon. Of all of the announcements, this is the one announcement that makes the most sense, because all of these other games you could get in other ways, either through MAME, type RetroPie type solutions, or from Arcade1up itself, even if you had to get it off of a third party at this point. But Killer Instinct is all new, never been seen before, and hard to emulate. So I think of all the units, this one's going to be the big success. The one that maybe isn't going to be as big as XMen. There's already been an XMen versus Street Fighter game. I know it's not the same thing, but there already has been an XMen game out. I know this game has got some big followers and people want it, and again, its cabinet resembles that of the original arcade game, but it doesn't have the 5 or 6 players that you could play in the original. It doesn't have 2 screens. It doesn't have some of the other kind of varieties that I think maybe some X-Men fanatics really wanted. So I think this might be where one that's close. It's the only 4-player game out of this bunch mentioned. So again, you're probably looking at a $500 price tag, or $450, at least initial. It'd be nice if it was lower. Again, I hope that all of these games are only $400. That remains to be seen. The other kind of all-new cabinet announcement is Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. I'm a Dragon's Lair fanatic. I'm somebody who, old enough to have played it in the arcade, won it in the arcade, and I love that game. I love Space Ace. I think they're 2 of the most imaginative, beautiful games ever made for video games. For the money, you get Dragon's Lair 1, you get Dragon's Lair 2, which back in time or time travel Dragon's Lair, and you get Space Ace. So you get Dragon's Lair 2, which is cool because I wasn't expecting that. So that is a good thing. The cabinet, I think, looks absolutely beautiful. Okay, so those all new cabinets are Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, Killer Instinct with Battletoads, and X-Men along with Galactic Storm and Captain America. All of these games are interesting. All of them have new art, new designs on the cabinet, and that is all to the good. It shows that Arcade1up is essentially maybe they're kind of hitting the reset button a little bit. Like if you haven't gotten into the Arcade1up system yet, maybe this is what gets you into it. Or if you're already an established owner and you have 6, 7 units or 10 or more, but you want to have those different shapes up against the wall to really make it feel like a real arcade as opposed to an Arcade1up showcase, well, here's your opportunity. The bad is this. There's no Wi-Fi on any of these, okay? So particularly Street Fighter, I think that is a negative. Now, as I should say that, all of these games are just being announced on January 11th. There are obviously going to be more games to be announced later on in the year. I'll get into that in a second. But not having Wi-Fi on a few of these games is a little bit disappointing. And of course, you're not going to be able to upgrade any of these games. There's no USB, there's no firmware upgrade. I mean, what you buy is what you get. Now, nobody expected any different, but it would have been cool to say, okay, so you like this Pac-Man cabinet and you like these 12 games, that's awesome. For another $100, we'll sell you another 12 games and you just get a firmware update. I guess that's the meh. That's not really the bad, but it'd be nice if they had Wi-Fi. So at least in this sort of what I'm calling the big reset for Arcade1up, they are not changing out, I'm guessing, the joysticks. They're not adding Wi-Fi. They're not adding upgradability, and they are not adding larger screens. So everything is kind of status quo in that, but they are giving you new art. They are giving you all new cabinet designs that more closely resemble the arcade originals, and they are giving you more than just 1 or 2 games in this. Even in the new games, say, well, you're only getting 3 games in the Dragon's Lair. Well, that's true, but you're getting the 3 games that system put out, which is Space Ace, Dragon's Lair, and Dragon's Lair 2. Killer Instinct, you're getting a title in Battletoads that a lot of people, I think, would probably buy a cabinet just for that. The reissue of the Tempest 12-in-1 is a highly sought after game, and that's good. So, I mean, there's a lot of good in what they're doing in terms of aesthetics, and, they're at least not, lowering the game number. I should mention this. They are giving you kick plates, and that's something I forgot to mention. In the all-new games, I think that they're actually kind of a 3D print. I mean, they're actually a physical fake, but still a physical coin slot thing that you can put on your kick plate. And on the legacy games, it's just a 2D print, but it looks pretty good. It can fool the eye, actually pretty easily. I guess for a lot of people, the biggest disappointment is going to be no Simpsons game. A lot of people have been clamoring for a Simpsons game, and it's just not going to happen. So I guess that's it. That's what happened at this year's CES. And let me know what you think down below. Is what they're offering what you want to see? Are you disappointed in something that you wanted, like maybe Wi-Fi or a bigger screen, a bigger cabinet? Some people want a more close to full-size cabinet. I know people want 2 screens on that X-Men thing. I thought that was unrealistic. One other question I have before I wrap it up is, have they changed out the controller for the Tempest game? Is it a better de-clicked knob? If it's not, I think it's going to be a real disappointment for people wanting to upgrade their arcades, because then they know they're going to have to go to a third party to change out that controller. So obviously some of this remains to be seen. If all of these games are going for $700, then they're all just, heck knows. If they're priced very competitively, let's say they're all for $350, then oh my gosh, that changes the metric a little bit too. If they're all $450, it's like, oh man, So pricing really does play a big part of this. The emulations, particularly for Dragon's Lair and Killer Instinct, that's going to matter. How well do they play? Are the graphics taking a hit? Particularly versus how much they cost, and when are they going to be released? Other companies are not standing pat. So if these are all going to be released in March or April, I think that's very good. If they're talking about a fall release for these games, I think that's bad. I think that's not going to fly. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks for stopping in Game Shack. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get more of this content. As always, love each other. And until next time, I'll see you in the Game Shack. Mwah! One of the other disappointments maybe is that they kind of promised that there was going to be a new platform or thing. If that's that little Pong thing, I think people are going to go, oh, that's nice. No, that's crap. That's not going to work. Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.